Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
All right. Good morning. Is it Wednesday already? Happy Wednesday. Nathaniel's nodding to me. Yes, it is. And welcome to JP, Kathy, and the crew. Super excited to have tons to talk about today. Senator Paxton will be back with us next week for the Senate Minute. She is laying out 3 bills this morning, so we wish her all the best because we know she's always pushing for good legislation and pushing back against bad legislation. We'll be talking about the verdict. We'll be talking about the Home Depot, Georgia boycott that the Christian ministers want to happen. Dogs and cats living together, just craziness everywhere. But it's never crazy. Is that good? Or maybe it is kind of crazy when we have Dr. Good on. I don't know. Which one do you want this morning? We've got our educational expert, Ask Dr. Be Good.
Today we're talking about something that reminded me of the Beverly Hillbillies song, and I wish I could sing it off the top of my head, but maybe that's best.
Well, listen to a story about a man named Jed.
and how there's bubbling crude. And so some of the crew might have been reading in the paper about all this federal money that's supposed to hit the schools, right?
Yes.
And the federal money is to help kids. The only intention practically, as you read in the paper, is to help us climb out of that COVID slide, right?
Yes.
And then you're also reading possibly about the fact that that money is stuck somewhere and that other states are already using the money. The schools actually have the money in other states, and in Texas we don't. And so we were able to get insight into the problems behind us not getting our money. And I'm hearing it's billions of dollars that are headed our way. Except that the way that the money is written to be funded over in states and the way that Texas can receive the money are completely different. Of course, Texas, we always do it our own way. So the money was written to maintain effort. That's a financial term.
Okay.
So I want you to think about, that gap in the budget.
Yes.
What have we talked about for a year? Oh, we have to talk to our legislators. We have to get them not to ding public education.
Right.
We don't need another funding gap, blah, blah, right? Well,
right.
That money, that federal fund, because in other states, they did have gaps, right? And so the money was written so that it would maintain effort in a public education budget. Well, there was no effort to maintain in Texas because our legislators had done what we asked, and that was they didn't ding public education.
Interesting.
So there was no effort to maintain. And so they can't give us the money the way that things are written because there's no compliance around it. So now we have people, from my understanding, and I talked to she used to be the deputy superintendent for the commissioner for public education,
right.
Finance, Miss Carabello. And I talked to her last week twice because I wanted to get the story right. And so she said there are people frantically trying to find the way to get that money to Texas without the severe strings. Because right now what you're hearing a little bit too is that there are too many strings.
Right.
Well, that's a negative way of putting it, yes. But there are people in the federal side and Texas side trying to find the way to get those income streams to us in a way that will not cause an accountability headache and compliance headache. So, but how does that play out, us not having money? Well, I'll give you a perfect example. If you'll remember, I've talked about this innovative intercession calendar that we wanted to move towards
right.
to help the kids, right? Everything we're doing is to help kids. And so we were going to go to a longer calendar. We were going to have our school year stretch into June. And of course, some teachers didn't like that. Some parents didn't like that, but everybody understood the need, right? Even 80% of our teachers said they would do it, even though they may not have liked it, but they would still do it because they were about the kids. Well, when we tried to fund that for next year, without those income streams, we didn't have the extra funding to fund it. So we just this morning, after I get off here, I'm going to start a board meeting at 8:30 to approve our new calendar. And guess what? It looks awfully like our other school calendars in the past. It's 180 school days. It's 190 for teachers. It's a traditional calendar,
Right.
which we can afford because, finance directors are funny. They will not create a budget based on hopes and dreams. And so, they want hard facts. If that money's not coming or we don't know when that money's coming, we cannot budget for it. And so if that money comes, then we'll be able to do marvelous things, especially if you'll remember, there's a bill out there to allow retired teachers to come back without a penalty.
Yes.
And so if that can be passed and those teachers are available and we get that income funding, wow, we can hire all sorts of people to work one-on-one with our kids, right? It'll make a huge difference. But that's how districts are feeling in Texas right now, that we're feeling the pinch of, hey, you have to educate your kids in a different way, in a more strategic way, and using more people so that you can get, smaller groups, right? But without the funding right now.
Right.
So we are in an interesting dilemma as far as those federal funds.
Well, and
we have millions coming.
And that's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes federal dollars come our way, and it's not enough to even shake a stick at. Not that we would turn it down, but you're talking a substantial sum of money. I know this is one of the things that Senator Paxton was looking into for you. So I know this may be something. I think since she's laying out, like I said, she's got 3 bills she was laying out at 8 a.m. this morning. But I know this is one of the things she was going to talk about. So this will probably be a topic for next week. So maybe we can even overlap you two and get y'all on at the same time to discuss this, because this is a big deal. We are in a position where, because of the pandemic, because of the needs, I mean, educational needs, mental health needs, we need all the money we can get.
Well, yes. And I've come on every week, not only your show, my show, to talk about what is starting to play out. Especially middle school, for example, middle school kids, the depression and suicide ideation has never been higher. And so, but, schools don't fund all the counselors, all the social workers that we can, because we can't afford it. And so being able to get our hands on that money earlier rather than later would be a great solution. We just can't count on it right now. So, it's interesting how Texas always has to be a little bit different.
Right.
And again,
we're our own country.
We asked them to do. Hey, our legislators did not ding public education. If they had, we would have had that money.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the irony of the whole thing. Our state reps and our state senators were really trying to make sure that, and I know, especially here in the Collin County, and I know you work very closely with all of the state representatives and the state senator here, and they had promised early on, hey, we are protecting this. We realize with the pandemic, we don't even need, because every session, anything and everything's on the chopping block to try to cut the budget. And education, you've always got a group of, state reps and or senators who try to go over after education money. And that wasn't the case this year. No. Just not, it was like not even on their radar, which was a good thing, because again, you do need all the added dollars in.
Well, and I think, too, I think there was also a bit of a fear factor. I think that they realized that parents did not go to school to become teachers, and they found themselves teachers, and all of a sudden, they're with their kid locked up in their house for 22 hours a day. And they're like, okay.
God bless Miss Smith and Mr. Smith.
Yeah, it's time for you to go back to school, Junior, because I'm about to kill you. And so, and I say that tongue in cheek, of course.
Yes.
But so I think the state legislature was on notice, I think, from Texans. And I think they knew it.
I believe that our advocacy movement, in many ways, many different organizations, not only ours, of course, but you had parent organizations all over the state who were very early on sending messages to their legislators about their thoughts behind a lot of things having to do with public education. But yeah, the irony is that they did do as we asked, and then it ended up hurting us anyway.
Right.
Well, and hopefully
You
that
can't make
hopefully
this
that'll
up,
get.
right?
No, you really can't make this up. And again, it's everybody's like, well, this happened in 2020. Of course, it's 2021. I believe anything at this point in time.
So the takeaway here for the crew is that be careful how you interpret what you're reading about those federal funds. I'm hearing some that the commissioner, TEA, they're keeping us from our federal funds. They're not.
No.
Because some people like to put those organizations in a bad light.
Right.
Sometimes regardless of the information, and that's not the case in this case. I mean, there are people frantically trying to figure out a way to get us
Absolutely.
that bubbling
Absolutely.
crude.
Well, and so let's, okay, again, you're all about advocacy. Then who would be the right people for, people who have especially school age kids to get in touch with? Do you call and tell your state rep, thank you for protecting education dollars? Do you call your congressman? Like in this neck of the woods, would people call, your friend and ours, Van Taylor, and ask him to help with that? Or do you call the TEA and say, we support this?
So
where do you go?
There would be two different messages. The message to our legislators is, hey, thanks for not dinging public education and for, that strong, maintaining efforts, financial term. To our congressmen, what we would say is, hey, Van Taylor, in my case, we understand that our Texas federal funds are bogged down somewhere. How are you helping to unbog them?
Gotcha.
Right? And so you see the difference in the message.
Yes.
Because it's those federal funds that need to be written and allowed in a different way, such that we can receive them with less strings. Because right now, from my understanding, the strings are so severe that they're almost untouchable.
Right.
And so
something needs to give, kind
hey,
of a thing.
And so people might say, well, why should I do that to my congressman? That's so far away. No, your congressman works for you here in Texas. They happen to be in Washington, but you have to understand they are looking for your voice. And many people they just don't reach out to the congressman, even if they are reaching out to their legislators, their state legislators, and they should do both.
That's a good point. That's a good. Well, especially in a situation like this, when you have federal funding, but it has to come through the state some way. You've got to be able to reconcile the two. And, and you're right. And again, Congressman Taylor says this when he comes on the show. He'll be like, I received 500 phone calls in a 72-hour period about this topic. And so you can't help but draw attention to an important topic when that happens. And again, when they've got a million different bills coming across their desk on any given day, how can you help get, and it was the squeaky wheel gets the grease or something like that. Sometimes you've got to be that squeaky wheel. You can do it in a positive way, like you mentioned, but sometimes you've got to do that. Oh, and Fred Nort said, thank you, Dr. Good, for watching my Facebook Live on Zig Ziglar. So he said, thank you so much.
Well, it was fun. It's always nice to support the crew.
There you go. Yes.
Dr. Good, as we get ready to wrap up, because that's what we're doing, and when I say wrap up, it needs to include ramp up down in Austin as we get closer to that deadline. Have we heard any kind of rattlings? I have not, and I've had my feelers out that there's going to be a gotcha bill in education.
I haven't, but now that I'll have to go offline about that. And gosh, now you've got me curious. Okay, let me put my feelers out.
Well,
a gotcha bill in what way? Do you
well,
know at all?
who knows? There seems to always be a session. Every session seems to have a gotcha bill in education, and it may just be a little one. Sometimes it's a big one, but there always seems to be somebody's pet project. Like Senator Whitmire and Texas Appleseed with truancy.
Oh goodness gracious, that was a disaster years ago.
Yeah, that was all because Senator Whitmire had 5 people call him and tell him how terrible people were in his district in the courts when it came to truancy. And so next thing you know, it became
a pet project for him, yeah.
And when you're the senior senator in the Senate, do you get people pay attention to you? And so I'm just curious if you've heard anything.
in the charter world, we're always looking out for those gotcha bills. I mean, we have bills. We had 40 gotcha possibilities in the last session. We're down to 2 this session. So we've made some friends in our legislative
huge
world.
Progress. Huge progress.
Yes. But there's one that they want to make us exactly like ISDs. Of course, remember, they don't pay us like ISDs. We don't have alternative centers. We don't have money to fund alternatives. But they want us to be able to do all that and not give us more money. So you have charter haters and legislators down there, and a lot of it is because of parents or superintendents, really the ISD superintendents who have the ear of those legislators. So we're constantly looking out for gotcha bills from the charter standpoint. But if it's public education, I hadn't heard, but now I'll start asking.
Well, one of the things that I had heard was that there's a possibility that they're doing something with the line item on ISD budgets for M&O.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm just curious if you've heard any rattlings. For me to say anything more would be rumorous and irresponsible, but
let's be like the media.
Yeah,
let's be like the regular media.
Let's not be like
Was
the
that
regular
my
media.
outside voice?
Yeah. Let's not, because I want to be responsible. But I had just heard some rattlings, you know, and one of the districts mentioned is Plano ISD, and the fact that they're hurting financially, and a big part of that is the reduction in the number of students that they have in their population, and some other issues there as well. But
so some of the things that I've heard as far as those very issues was the fact that the federal funds that came the first time, because we're talking about second and third strands now, that they're trying to make their way to Texas, is that they went to pay for giving districts money for kids that weren't there this year. And so districts have been allowed to use last year's attendance rates or enrollment rates to fund their budgets, even though 10 to 20% of the kids didn't show up. And so the federal funds want to maintain that effort, but that can't go on forever. We have to find the kids, right? Now, at Legacy, we were pretty fortunate, but the bigger districts were really hurt, especially in the pre-K area. A lot of those pre-Kers that were supposed to show up didn't show up. And when you're talking hundreds in a district of kids that didn't show up, that equals millions of dollars. And so that may be that they're going to do away with that type of support to the districts. And they're going to maybe putting that into law. So that may be what you're talking about.
Gotcha. Like I said, I've heard some rumors, and I'm just kind of waiting to see if anything pans out. Like I said, whenever we get to this point during the session, not only are we wrapping up, but we seem to be ramping up.
Yeah, we only have 5.5 weeks left.
Yeah, I mean, we're really it's on the this is the end. You know, you get to that halfway mark, and so much work has already been done. You know, and I think, and this is one of those things that I know those of us who follow legislation, and you always want to look at the very end when some of these bills come to the floor that last week before sine die. That's when they start what we call lighting up like a Christmas tree. And that's when you have to watch out, especially for somebody to stick some random amendment in there that completely hurts, in this case, would hurt the world of education or the charter world, or whatever the case may be. So you really do, you have to follow that bill, and that's why it's so great. You know, we always push on your show, Dr. Good, and Senator Paxton on our show pushes following specific bills and how you do bill lookup and how you can get alerts, because at the last minute, if they start putting amendments onto good legislation, it can jack it up with just emotion.
Right. We have sort of a what they call those a tree, a called tree. When that happens, we start calling the different districts, superintendents, to alert their parents and staff to start their calling and emailing legislators about no.
Absolutely. Yep. Good point. All right. Well, great information as always. Thanks so much. Oh, your show Sunday. Your show Sunday. What's going to be the topic?
You know, we're doing some end of the year wrap up stuff. Where do people, the guys who study viruses, where are they? How do they go on vacation?
Epidemiologist?
Yeah, epidemiologists. Those guys. How do they go on vacation these days?
Huh.
End of school. What do parents need to think about for next year? What kind of school and what consideration? So it's sort of an end of year type of show to consider for parents and educators.
I like it. Well, we'll be tuned in.
So,
We'll be tuned in Sunday morning.
all right, guys.
All right. Thanks. Have a
All
great
All right.
one.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Be Good.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's Ask Dr. Be Good on Sundays at 8 a.m.
8 to 9 a.m. and every Thursday as well.
every
We'll
Thursday.
see a repeat of the show.
That's
So
right, from
good
the week
stuff.
prior. There you go.
Good stuff.
So, there's a lot to be said about all of this hullabaloo.
You're going to have to be more specific. Which hullabaloo are you referring to,
Well,
JP?
As a part of the media, we really don't want to be specific. We want to be non-specific and binary, and please speak to me in terms of pronouns. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, I don't even know where you're going with this one.
Well, you sent me an article, and I've read the article.
Yeah.
On the Georgia voting laws, and we've touched on it slightly when we talked about the meme that I had sent out, because that was all based on that. And then we really haven't been able to dive into it. And so Home Depot is under a great deal of pressure right now, which I think is hilarious, by the way. They're one of the largest companies in the state of Georgia that employs more Georgians than anybody else. And we're going to give them a hard time and harass them.
And it's who's giving them a hard time as well. I just, you and I bust chops all the time about, these companies, everybody has to be politically involved. So, and we're always like, you know what, just leave the companies out of it, leave entertainers, leave politics out of it. We're always like saying, we just want places. I want a place where I can go and shop and I don't have to worry about whose political view is what. I need a break from that. Same with entertainment and, TV shows and movies and whatnot and concerts. We want that break. Same with sports. We're always talking about why did the NBA, why did Mark Cuban have to stop doing the national anthem? And, all of these different things. And we talk about how we get so tired of everybody having to be politically involved and we want to stay away from that. Well, then you've got a company who said, hey, we sell tools. This has nothing to do with us. You want a hammer? You want a saw? You want some nails? Come on over. And so now they're getting condemned because they're just trying to stay out of politics.
Well, and what they've said is, their comment is, hey, look, we are all about fair and fully available elections. And that's what we stand by. Why does a company have to say anything more than that? Why does a company have to take a stance on a political issue? I don't understand why. They sell ladders. They sell sheetrock. They sell plywood.
What does that have to do with anything political in any way, shape, or form?
Right. I mean, I shop at stores here in Texas that are run by Democrats because I'm going in for the product. I'm going in to buy, and they're nice people. I get along with them. Yeah. Why are we?
Well, you don't, and it's not just Democrat. I mean, you shop. It doesn't matter.
No, I only shop in Democrat stores.
No, you do not. Well, okay,
Grogu. What do you think about that?
Tell James Sellers that.
I want to hear what Grogu has to say.
Tell your buddy James that.
Yeah, he says, JP, you're full of it. No, but my point is that it doesn't matter to me the political affiliation. Matter, right. What matters to me is what I'm going in and I'm shopping for.
Right.
And I think it's what matters to most people. And really, truly, during the pandemic, it seems like everybody's been given a pass to be able to say, oh, we don't have that. It's because of the pandemic. It's like the price of wood. Have you seen the price of wood? It's ridiculous.
Okay, you know what's interesting? It's interesting that you mentioned that. My daughter, who was at Home Depot on Monday, she was getting some plywood to use as slats under her bed.
Yeah, good luck.
And it's so funny because so we're her and my mom and myself are together, and Emily's getting ready to run to Home Depot, and my mom had said, oh, that's the bed I bought for you. I'll help pay for the materials because Emily's doing this do-it-yourself, fix her own slats in her bed. Yes, do it yourself.
No, but you got to just say DIY. That's the woke
term.
did
I not say DIY? Oh,
no, you said do it yourself.
DIY. Because, there you go. DIY project. And Emily and I figure we're like, you know what? The material she's getting is cheap and all this kind of stuff. We're thinking around $10, $15. Do you know how much it cost her?
$60?
40, over
Yeah.
a little over 40. Just absolutely, you could have knocked my mom, myself, and my daughter over with a feather at this point. We're like, wait, are you sure you got plywood? We're like going through the whole list with her, and she's like, I've never seen anything like it. This was the cheapest I could get. So again, you've got so many things. People who have lost jobs who are struggling to buy supplies at Home Depot. Then you've got Home Depot who's trying to stay afloat like everybody else. And now all of a sudden you've got a group of ministers who are calling for a boycott of Home Depot just because they were like, hey, we sell tools. Yep, sure, we support fair elections. Why not? But we want to stay out of this. We just want to sell tools.
Right.
Unreal.
Well, that's what I want them to do anyways. I
Yes.
would prefer that they stay out of the fray.
Exactly. How many times have we said that when a company or an organization gets involved and we're like, why do you have to get involved? That's not your gig. Football players, why are you getting involved in this? This is not your gig.
Right.
NBA owners, why are you getting...
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, stay in your lane. Yeah.
Right. So Ramil says, just like the use of plastic straw and spoon, before the pandemic, it was a big thing and then it disappeared. Yeah.
It's funny how it depends on what the hot topic of du jour is, what the hot topic of the day
Well, and
is.
so sticking with this, 1,000 churches have been band together to go out and protest because how dare Home Depot won't come out against the Georgia voting law. Here's what I find intriguing about that. For an organization that is against lynch mobbing, they have become a lynch mob, and they are now going out after Home Depot.
Yeah.
And so that puts everybody on notice because that's what they said.
Yep.
For other Republican states, be put on notice that we're not going to tolerate this. Well, the lynch mob is on its way. And so I guess we now are going to have justice served, Maxine Waters.
We'll be talking about her. Please chime in on how you think about, what do you think about them apples?
Yeah, by lynch mob only. And so if the lynch mob agrees with you, then you're in good shape. If the lynch mob doesn't agree with you, well, things are not going to be way good.
Yeah, exactly.
And so bottom line is that when do we stand up? When does the silent majority, because we are the majority, stand up and say, good common sense is what must take over? And it's time for us to put aside...
Good common sense. Can you define that?
Ridiculousness.
And we've got Chuck Wright. As a matter of fact, we'll get back to that topic. We're going to talk with Chuck about something nice and lovely and positive right now. But, good common sense, it's almost like, JP, we need to do a show on what good common sense used to be and what it is now. And is there even any?
Yeah.
Other than the crew,
yeah,
of course.
Absolutely.
Present company excluded from that.
So do we have Chuck at 8:30 this morning? Or
Yeah, we've got
8:45?
Chuck. I think Chuck, are you coming on now or 8:45? It's in the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. We'll wait.
Right.
We'll wait for a few minutes then.
So, and then also, and this is kind of cool. This was an overnight deal. Just one of our little members of the crew. Mia is off for her regional golf tournament today.
Yay!
At 11 o'clock. But check this out.
Yeah.
It was an overnight.
Oh,
School trip overnight.
I love it.
How fun is
love
that?
It. That's so awesome.
I remember, I don't know if Michelle, tell me if this was Mia's first one, but besides elementary school, going to camp kind of a thing. I remember in high school going on my very first overnight, and it was a speech tournament down in San Diego. And so we got on our little bus and we sang the Flintstones down the road.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And then, of course, we had seniors that were sneaking out and going to Tijuana with the bus driver.
Oh, and there's that. Like I said, when I was in drill team, at least I don't think Miss Molly and the parents did this to us when we went to California and stuff when I was in high school drill team. But my Golden Girls, when I was a Golden Girls coach, we would tape the outside of the doors so we knew if anybody broke through trying to get out. Yeah, nobody's busting out. You're just going to see, you're here to see Mickey Mouse, and that's it.
I don't think Doug Wilkins did that. He was hard to bake, Coach.
I love it.
I don't think he did that. But the bus driver got like $25 per person richer.
What?
Yeah, and drove him down to Tijuana.
You could never do that nowadays.
Well, I bet you it still happens.
At least I don't think so.
Yeah, I bet you it still happens. So, is he still trying to connect on audio, Nathan? Okay. We're going to bring Chuck Wright on at 8:45. I think that was our scheduled time anyway, so we're going to continue the conversation. First of all, I want to say good morning to the crew. Nathan, you're right. Conservatives do need to get radical, so to speak, and you and I have discussed this. And so, and that's what it's going to take. We have to turn the tide, right? So these guys are hiding behind the church cloth. Churches are coming together. This is a godly thing. Now you're a lynch mob.
So it's a godly
you're
thing
a regular old lynch
to try
mob.
to ruin a company.
Yeah.
Again, and then I look at it, and if my church were involved in this, I would say, wait a second. Don't we come together to worship the Lord, and aren't we here to, help those in need? And why do you need to get involved in voting laws? Now, not that
Right.
that people, that's not a thing, and I know some churches are politically active, but again, when do you? My goodness, if you go anywhere on once a week to escape and to just go and worship and get yourself grounded again and reconnect with God, isn't it supposed to be church?
That's what it's supposed to be.
And then if they're telling me to boycott a place from the pulpit, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be like, you're kidding me. I'm not even safe for an hour in church from politics.
Yeah. So let's break down the Georgia law. And I'm trying to figure out the unfairness. And I'm trying to figure out the reduction in or the exclusion of a certain voting block. I'm trying to figure out why Republicans fare better than Democrats. And what I think is funny is, and by the way, I went to a liberal publication. I went to the New York Times.
Yes, I was going to say that's an article. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go to the New York Times because I wanted a liberal publication.
Yep.
Because they're going to give me their side
What's
of it.
interesting
and
is
I want to talk about it.
When I researched that, like the top 3 that popped up were liberal publications.
Oh, okay. Well, I just
So,
went
which is
after
interesting.
I went straight to the. I went.
You
after
went straight
the,
to the
yeah.
source.
I went after the New York Times right away. So here's the change in the election, and this is page 38. Not earlier than 78 days or less than 11 days prior to the day of the primary or election or runoff of either, in which the elector desires to vote, any absentee elector may make either by mail, by facsimile transmission, by electronic transmission, or in person in the registrar's or absentee ballot clerk's office an application for an official ballot of the elector's precinct to be voted at such primary election or runoff. Now, what's been struck out is the old law, which said that not more than earlier than 180 days. So what they've done is they've put out where you you no longer have 180 days to request an absentee ballot. Now you have 78 days or less than 11 days prior to, right? So what are we saying then? Are we saying that Democrats aren't efficient and they don't take care of their business, and so they need more time, and so less Democrats?
Which is kind of slamming them in a reverse kind of way,
well, it is.
Right?
Yeah, because I don't get this. Are we saying that Democrats are traditionally lazy and they can't request their ballot in a timely manner? And so then are we saying that Republicans are more
efficient on top of things,
effective on top of things, and they request their ballot in a timely manner? Tell me how reducing it from 180 days to 78 days.
And 78 days, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, that's still...
We're talking 2.5 months?
Well, and with the 11 days prior to, you're at 90 days, right? So I know that doesn't add up to 90 days,
still,
but the idea is 3 months.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And so, but the bottom line is that tell me how that marginalizes black churches, because that's what they've claimed.
Well, that's why these group of black church ministers have band together.
Right. How does it marginalize Democrats and promote Republicans? This I don't understand. And again, unless you're telling me that Democrats are slow and they can't figure out how to request their ballot in a timely manner. That's all I can think of. And so for me, I don't see how that marginalizes. I mean, and if you think differently, please feel free
help us out
to chime in and tell us that
out.
we're idiots.
Yeah, I mean, help us out. Hey, let us know, and we'll zoom you in if you want to talk about it.
Here's what the New York Times uses as their stumping post. 1.3 million Georgians, about 26% of the state's electorate, voted with absentee ballots. Okay. Out of that, 65% voted for Joseph R. Biden, and 34% chose Donald J. Trump.
Let me ask you, is that I'd like to know compared to other states, and you may not have the answer off the
I
top
don't
of your
have
head.
that. I'm just, yeah.
But I'd be curious to know what kind of a percentage that is compared to Texas or New York or California
Yeah,
or
I'm not sure.
Michigan or something. Yeah.
Well, and I think that number flipped a little bit. And again, it's because of this way open, because of the pandemic balloting that we did,
Right.
this mail-in ballot garbage. And so again, I go back to, why is this unfair? Why does this limit the election? Why is this going to hurt and be harmful to Democrats? And it's pro-Republican. And the Times says that. The Times says it's a pro-Republican piece of legislation.
And my question is how?
Right. Well, on that particular one, for sure, right? Why can't you just request your ballot in a timely manner, for goodness sakes? There are strict new ID requirements for absentee ballots. Now, again, and here's this thing. And I had this conversation on my page, my Facebook page, and it was a good conversation, solid conversation. Again, they say that it restricts impoverished people and minorities. Why? Everybody has access to IDs.
We talked about this with Chambrielle, remember the other day? And, Chambrielle, who's our intern, is a young Black woman, very well educated, knows her stuff, owns her own business at a young age, is learning the whole media industry, has her own podcast, sharp young lady. And she said it wasn't to her, she said, I don't have a problem with showing an ID. I show IDs for other things and, what have you. Her thing was, she said, for example, she goes, I do have trouble when I'm standing in line and people say, well, who are you voting for? And you're just voting for that person because you don't know anything. You don't know any better. Right. And I get that. That would be upsetting. But then that has everything to do with the culture and nothing to do with the voting laws themselves.
Right.
So
continuing on page 38, in order to confirm the identity of the voter, such form shall require the elector to provide his or her name, date of birth, address as registered, address where the elector wishes the ballot to be mailed, and the number of his or her Georgia driver's license or identification card issued. If such elector does not have a Georgia driver's license or ID card, the elector shall affirm this fact in the manner prescribed in the application, and the elector shall provide a copy of a form of identification.
Right.
The form made available by the Secretary of State shall include a space to affix a photocopy or electronic image of such identification. So here's my thing, right? They're saying that this is restrictive, and it's really nailing it down. If you're concerned about your voter base, which whoever you are, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative,
independent, Green Party,
guess what? Go out, meet your voter, and help them figure this process out.
Which that happens all the time.
And it does. That we have Republican
all
clubs
sides.
and Democrat clubs.
Yes.
That go out and they do this. And so I don't know why this is confusing. I remember back in 1994 going out walking door to door during absentee ballot request time, targeting absentee ballot homes that traditionally sent in absentee ballots. And I remember people asking me, how do I fill this out? I'm a Republican. And I couldn't help them fill it out, but I explained
You explained
to them,
the process.
Right.
Absolutely. Well,
And
we
so-
did this for 2020. I mean, we were out early because we knew during the pandemic, we knew you were going to have a lot of folks who were nervous to go into a polling place, and so they wanted to vote absentee. So, yeah, you explained the process, and we were out there doing that literally 6 months before voting started, and so were the Democrats.
Right. So
here's
people,
we were calling people on the phone.
Yeah, here's some more really, really egregious ID requirements. I mean, how dare you, Georgia? If the elector does not have a Georgia driver's license or state identification card, the elector shall so affirm in the space provided on the outer oath envelope and print the last 4 digits of his or her social security number in the space provided on the outer oath envelope. If the elector does not have a Georgia driver's license, identification card, or a social security number.
I know.
Okay, folks, we have now left the United States of America here, and now we're talking about the subdivisions of being a citizen. The elector shall so affirm in the space provided in the outer oath envelope and place a copy of one of the forms of identification in the outer envelope. Help me out here. How are we restrictive?
Yeah.
How is that pro-Republican? And you better put yourself on notice. And Home Depot, how dare you be in favor of fair and just elections because you didn't come out against this? Help me out here. And you don't even have to have the stinking form of ID. You can write your last 4 digits of your social on the oath form, for goodness sakes.
Yep.
And if you don't have any
Don't
ID and you don't have a social security card number, which the last time I checked, when you were born in this country, everybody got one.
Yes.
So this means people that are not born in this country have an outlet to still vote
and if you're
under the
here,
Georgia law.
and if you're here legally, you have it. You know, if you've come over, if you've immigrated from another country and you've gone through the process, again, you've got a number now attached to you. So you're able to, so it's not like this is anti-immigrant, it's anti-illegal immigrant.
Well, but even somebody who is not a citizen of this country has a means to vote.
Yeah,
So this is the take from the New York Times. Previous Georgia law required voters to simply sign their absentee ballot applications. Now they will have to provide the number from a driver's license or an equivalent state-issued ID. This is virtually certain to limit access to absentee voting. How?
Well, I'm shaking my head at this. I don't get it. Again, and if this is, I go back to what Shambriel said. If this is more a cultural thing about blacks typically voting liberal, then what does that have to do with law? Or is it one of these things that because it was, this was started and this came to fruition from a Republican elected leader? Is that just why they have trouble?
Here's what's funny. Here's what's funny. Give me a blue county, give me a red county, and I will show you that both parties are doing pretty much the same thing for voter education. That's what blows me away. For example, in Collin County, when the state changed up and you couldn't vote straight party anymore.
We educated on that.
We went into massive education. I promise you, the Democratic Party in Dallas County did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So when there are changes that come up, we go out as parties and we educate our voting base.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we have people that would call, we would answer their questions. So the New York Times goes a little further.
Yeah.
They say the law also creates pitfalls for voters. If they fail to follow all the new steps, like printing a date of birth, or in some cases, including partial social security numbers, their ballots could be tossed out. Mr. Trump's lawyers and allies urged judges and Republican officials last year to invalidate some ballots that were out of compliance. Stringent voter ID laws in other states have depressed voting, mostly among people of color.
Right.
Here's my question. Why? Because you had to read your card and put your number on it? I want to know why.
Yeah.
I want to know why it is when we apply.
What's so harsh?
Right. I don't get it. I am as confused as a goat on
this is one of
AstroTurf.
those facepalm things. And something else we don't get, and we'll talk about this after we have Chuck Wright on, is Maxine Waters basically dismissing an entire third of the government, one of the branches of government, the judicial branch.
Hey, there he is. Good morning, sir.
Chuck. And Chuck reminded us.
Hey, good morning.
Chuck reminded us on the feed to go out and vote in your local elections. He voted in the Frisco City Council and ISD elections. So early voting has already started.
Early voting is underway, but more importantly today, happy San Jacinto Day to all of my great Texas friends.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Same to you.
And even more important to me, happy birthday to Michelle.
Hey, there you go.
Wife.
Happy
We love you,
birthday,
Michelle.
Michelle.
Happy
there
birthday.
you go.
Birthday blessings.
Wise choice there, Chuck. Wise choice.
How could a sixth and seventh generation not marry a girl born on San Jacinto Day?
You gotta
It's
love
just
that.
all
It's too
cosmic,
perfect.
Karma, fate, kismet, whatever you want to call it.
I love it.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck, what do you have for us today? You know, Chuck Wright, first of all, again, he's a retired Marine helicopter. Well, I always say that wrong. He's a Marine helicopter pilot that Marines never retire. So I'm not saying that right, am I, Chuck?
No. Now, my partner in crime on Kilroy's Conversation has retired. There are no ex-Marines Once a Marine, always a Marine. But I am just a lowly Marine Corps helicopter pilot doing his best to make it in this crazy world. And I'm pushing my camera to show off what we're going to talk about today. I get the opportunity to talk about the Arlie Ermy Memorial Golf Classic that we are going to have on the 14th of May to tee off Armed Forces Day weekend.
Excellent.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. So enlighten us. The golf tournament's coming around, and again, the importance of the weekend and why we're doing it and all the good stuff.
And thank you so much for that. Arlie Ermy was an iconic Marine. He is still probably the most recognizable veteran face out there. Most will remember him from the movie Full Metal Jacket, where he played the part of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. We're actually going to do an entire show about that because it's an amazing story. It's a funny story, typical of a Marine. And he used to support Homeless Veteran Services of Dallas. That's here in Dallas. That is a great organization that supports not only our homeless veterans, but all of our veterans and their families. It has been operating for 10 years now. It operates in an old National Guard armory 2 blocks south of the VA hospital in downtown Dallas. It is an incredible organization, and we decided to have a golf tournament. We are one of 2 golf tournaments that can legally use Arlie Ermy's name. We're talking about actually expanding that and doing a nationwide series of golf tournaments, but that's coming in the future. So May 14th, we'll kick off, or tee off, appropriately said. Sorry, I was actually watching the Alabama spring. I got football on the brain. But it's time to get out of the house. It's time to get the sticks out and go hit them long and straight. Hopefully play your fairway and not somebody else's.
That's not the way I play.
Third Saturday in May is Armed Forces Day. So we are expanding this to celebrate Armed Forces Day weekend. Andrew and I, we celebrate all things veteran, all things military.
Absolutely.
These are all good things.
So, Chuck, where can they go look and find information so they can become a part of the golf tournament?
Very easy website to find. It's gunnygolf.com, G-U-N-N-Y golf.com. We are at this point half full, which for a golf tournament, most of the people come in between the 4th and last week. So we are going to sell out this year. We still have some opportunities for some sponsors. We are super excited to be able to announce that Herschel Woody Williams is going to do the invocation. And for those who don't know who Herschel is, he is the oldest living Medal of Honor recipient in America. He was a Marine. He earned his Medal of Honor on Iwo Jima. That will be the source of yet another Kilroy's Conversation show. Like the way I'm throwing these little plugs in for.
I love it. Yeah, well, it's a great
knowledge bombs.
show.
Almost like knowledge bombs.
Another one of the shows on the JP, Kathy, and the Crew Network. Or
there you go.
I still can't figure out what you guys call yourself.
JPK
Look
Broadcasting
Network.
JPK, baby.
Absolutely,
JPK.
as we work to grow the network. But we really appreciate you guys supporting, particularly me, supporting all of my crazy causes. This one is very near and dear to my heart. And the interesting thing is, I don't play golf, which is why I got stuck being the tournament
Which
director.
is the irony of all of this.
Of course, you can go do this. It's like, great. Had never run a golf tournament before. It's a tremendous amount of fun. We're going to have hand-rolled cigars out there. There will be at least one other Medal of Honor recipient playing with us. There will be several extremely well-known military figures playing. It's at Bear Creek West, which they have put over $1 million in improvements to. I've been told it's one of the best courses in Dallas, in the Dallas area. So for our golfers, come out and have some fun. Great lunch, great food, great swag bags.
Yeah, it's a really
mention
good time.
Rolled cigars.
Yes.
That gets most of my golfers.
Yeah, you keep
attention.
going back to the rolled cigars.
that's a good one.
I
I'm
think
all
you're doing
over
it for the
that.
rolled cigars. That's what I think you're doing.
It is worth it. And the interesting thing, so one of the guys in the golf tournament is very in tune to the legislative scene down in Austin, and there's actually a cigar lobby. So he took a couple of these cigars down last year, and he's also, and I call them degenerate golfers, and degenerate golf know who they are, and that does not hurt their feelings. In
Doesn't
fact,
hurt
they
mine.
proudly wear that title. We have a lot of degenerate golfers who play. The guys with the cigar lobby love these cigars too, and these guys smoke cigars all the time. So yeah, we're really proud of that. Rojas Cigars here in Dallas is a proud participant every year. So
Love
we're
it.
excited to have them. I mentioned having a lot of fun. I probably should talk about the cause a little bit. And 100% of the proceeds, by the way, go to support Homeless Veteran Services of Dallas. This is a great, though seriously underfunded organization. It was created by a Marine friend of ours, Ken Waterston. More than 65,000 veterans and their families have been served by Homeless Veteran Services of Dallas and the Veteran Resource Center that they run at their location and really all over the 40-county area that surrounds DFW. So it is a great cause. Your money is going to a good place.
Absolutely.
I will add, if you go to gunnygolf.com and you're not a golfer, you can make a donation. On the site, there's a little donation button right there. The other thing that if you've got a company and you want to sponsor, we'd love to have you. Lunch sponsorship is still available. Longest drive is still available. But the other one is just a simple $500 sponsor a hole. So we're having tee box signs on. We're trying to get at least one on every hole. Great way to sponsor. If you've got $5 or $10, it all is worth it.
All goes to a good cause.
Well, what I love
All
is
goes to
I
a
love that
very, very good
100%.
cause.
Yeah,
100% goes to the cause.
which is amazing.
You know, and you don't find a lot of organizations that do that, and so it's nice to know that everything that you spend.
There's no admin or
Yeah,
anything.
No, you're gonna go out and have a good time. You're gonna
Right.
play golf. You can smoke a cigar. You can have lunch. You
Well,
can,
and Chuck works for the cigars,
right. Get a great swag bag.
and they are great swag
They
bags.
are.
I like
They are
them.
very good swag bags, and yet all your money is going to a great cause to help homeless veterans, and so vitally important. Get out there, support them. Again, go to gunnygolf.com. It's on our screen. We also now have. Is that the site, Nathan? Very good. So we've got the site up where you can go donate as well. So give to a good cause, help it. I think that Kathy and I have decided that that's going to be what our telethon will be this next year.
Yeah, we're looking at that being one of the main military group or veterans groups that we donate to, because again, this is an underfunded cause that is so important. So it's one of those things, we talk about it all the time. We talk about homeless. We talk about how many of them are veterans. Let's put our money where our mouth is.
Yep, absolutely. All right. And then, of course, we've got some other stuff going on. And you're going to talk about that on another day with Gold Star families and all that good stuff.
Yes. Very excited. We presented last night to City Council. So we have cleared the last bureaucratic hurdle, and construction is underway. I can't wait to talk about that next week.
Yay! Awesome.
All right. So
Well, we're
stay
looking
tuned
forward
for
to
that.
it.
Inviting all of your listeners to come out and join us on May 13th.
Good
So
stuff.
yes, I put the golf tournament the next day.
I know, I'm like 2 days in a row.
I must be insane.
Yes, we love you.
Just
You
look at
are.
your eyes.
That madness. I'll talk about that in the future.
Sounds good. Well, Chuck, again, thanks for taking time today to join us here at JP Kathy and the crew and keeping us updated with everything going on, veterans around our area. And I really look forward to it every Wednesday to hear what things are happening. So
We really appreciate you having me on. Happy San Jacinto Day.
Love
you guys
it.
have a great day. And
You
thanks
too.
again.
you as well. Take care.
Love you, my friend.
All right. So there you go. Gunnygolf.com. Make a donation and help a veteran. And, I love,
Grogu.
what'd you do to Grogu?
No, he's just tired.
Are you sure?
He's just tired. He's
Check him.
okay. He's
Check
okay.
him. I want you
He's
to
okay.
check him.
He's tired. He's okay.
Check him.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
He's
I'm
okay.
feeling pretty
He's
good.
good.
Okay, there you go.
He needs. We aren't drinking coffee today because we've got laryngitis. So he's like, "Where's the caffeine?"
Oh, is that
Where's
what
the
it is?
caffeine,
That
Mama?
could be- that could be it. Here we are. We're at 8:57. Really want to hammer into Maxine Waters on Friday.
Yeah.
Not done with the Georgia voting law.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about with that. With Maxine Waters, my big beef, and we would love to hear from the crew so we can bring these talking points into the conversation on Friday. She basically dismissed an entire branch of government. You've got the legislative branch, you've got the executive branch, and you've got the judicial branch. You need all three. They all three work well together when everybody stays in their lane, like we referred to earlier. My goodness, you're a former judge. She basically just said, we don't need due process. And she basically threatened that, hey, if the outcome is not what it should be, which is like, wait a second, the outcome will be what the outcome is because we have a thing called due process in America, which you're guilty or you're innocent. Everybody gets due process. Even Ted Bundy got due process. Charles Manson got due process. It is what it is. But basically, she's saying, you know what, and thumbing her nose at the judge, your whole court thing doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's way bad.
My goodness.
Yeah,
Did she just hand that defense attorney and
that's what the
appeal?
judge said. Well, that's what the judge said.
That's what the judge said, literally. He's like, basically, Maxine Waters has just handed you a reason for appeal.
Well, and I would be curious to poll, and I'm wondering if the defense team, if they polled the jury panel, because you can do that at the end.
And say who said, ask
why?
them.
You can ask them why.
Oh, okay. I know they did ask, the defense did ask, because I watched it, asked, how did you vote, to make sure everybody actually was okay with how they voted.
Right.
But they didn't ask why, or at least if they did, they didn't show it.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Quigley, I saw the comparison there of Jimmy Hoffa and Maxine Waters.
I
That was
didn't
pretty
see
funny.
that.
Oh,
Show me that, Coach. Send that to us.
And she is race baiting, Greg. It's
yeah,
horrible.
Greg, you're right. And you know what? And at a time where the last thing on earth we need is race baiting, there's enough racial tension as is. And so my thing is, and this is something I'd like to bring up Friday and get the opinion of the crew. So basically, you've got this individual who was found guilty on all three counts. And then if this goes to appeal, did she just, how is she helping out those who felt like that blacks were being targeted by, how is she helping them out at the end then?
She's woke.
Oh gosh. Give me, if I hear the word woke.
She's super woke.
I don't ever need to hear that word
Jehoshaphat
again.
woke.
Yeah, just so crazy.
I'm sure that was racist of me.
Somehow. Everybody's offended by everything nowadays.
You know what I think everybody should have to do?
What?
I think everybody should have to come under a magical spell when they go into Congress. And
what kind of magical spell?
If they lie or try to shade the truth or give a partial truth, their nose starts to grow.
Oh, like Pinocchio.
Absolutely.
We think that they should be Pinocchioed.
Yes.
Hashtag that.
Hashtag that.
And God bless our police. God bless our men and women in blue who fight every day. When you call 911, I saw some 20-year-old chick some white girl who had a shirt on that said "Dirty Cops," and I thought, my gosh, if something happens to you, who are you calling?
Yeah.
If you get carjacked, if somebody robs your apartment, who do you call?
Ghostbusters now?
Yeah, really. Yeah, who are you going to call? I mean, just craziness. All right. We love you to the crew. Lots to talk about Friday and have some fun.
Well, and again, I've just put it out there, but Senator Paxton was not on today because she was rolling out 3 different bills. And what you do is you have to end up going to the committee meetings. You kind of sit there.
Physically each. Yeah, go to each one.
And they let you sit kind of off to the side up with the committee, and then they'll call on you to have you present your bill. Or your amendment, and then you go on to the next one. So she was not able to join us today. She does send her apologies
best,
and her best.
Lots and lots and lots to talk about next week.
Wednesday,
oh yeah,
so.
She's got tons to catch us up on. So that's good stuff.
Greg,
the lawyer show tomorrow.
Greg Rusk, I'm in a self-induced woke coma.
What is that?
That's way good. That's what that is. That's funny. All right, man, we're out here. The music is playing. Have a blessed day. We will see you on Friday.